The lesson is titled Jesus Feeds the Multitude. The first question I have you ever felt like there's people that don't understand you and your needs? Have you ever felt like that? That you have some need and people just don't understand? Or maybe they have some idea, but they're not really meeting that need. They don't know how to help, what to do. Have you ever wanted to do more to help meet other people's needs? Maybe you want to do it, but you feel like you don't have enough resources, you don't have enough time, there's not much you can do. And finally, do you want to experience the miraculous power of God in your life? So these are some of the questions we're going to talk about in this lesson. The first section is hungering souls. Question A. Besides the disciples, who else accompanied Jesus when he went over the Sea of Galilee before the Passover? So now we're here in John 6. Where were we last lesson? I want to get some context so we understand what's happening. What's before 6?
5.
John 5. What was the last event we studied? It was the healing at the pool of Bethesda, right? And this kind of marked the end of Jesus' ministry over there in Jerusalem. And it almost seems like not much has happened since the end of John 5 and the beginning of John 6. But actually, a whole year has passed by. Do you know how we can know that? Let's read the verses. John 6, verse 1 to 2. If you have it, go ahead.
Okay. After these things, Jesus went over the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias, and a great multitude followed him, because they saw his miracles, which he did on them that were diseased.
Yeah, thank you. So it's actually not in these verses. I think we'll come to it later. But what it mentions here is that this is actually during the time of the Passover feast. And when we were studying in Bethesda, there was also another feast. And that's why Jesus was in Jerusalem for it. This time, he's not in Jerusalem for the feast. Because, not yet. Exactly. Right now, he's here. And so he traveled here. A year has passed by. Now he's been doing this ministry here. And what happens? What did Brother Orville read? Yeah.
I mean, obviously, even from this verse, even though the other verses show even more. The other verses show even more that there were so many people gathering and passing by and so on. And it says, as he was going over the lake or the sea or whatever, there were people walking around, and the other ones were going with the boats. So there was a lot of kind of commotion to get a glimpse of Jesus at this point in time.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And I'll just read a few sentences in the note. It says, the Passover was at hand, and from far and near, bands of pilgrims on their way to Jerusalem gathered to see Jesus. Additions were made to their number until there assembled 5,000 men besides women and children. So we know at these big Passover feasts, people came from all over to Jerusalem. So there were a lot of pilgrims on their way, and they stopped here to hear this big attraction, to see Jesus and hear what he has to say. Question B, describe the spiritual condition of the people assembling. Sister Magda.
They describe very well. And Jesus, when he came out, saw the people and was moved with compassion toward them, because they were as a sheep not having a shepherd, and he began to teach them many things. This is the beautiful description.
Yeah, thank you. What do you think of when you picture this, like a sheep without a shepherd? Lost, confused, not knowing where to go, don't have leadership, don't know what's true or false, right or wrong, where the good grass to feed is or not.
I mean, to me, it reminds me clearly of society today. Everybody is looking for something. Everybody is looking for happiness. Everybody is looking for satisfaction. Everybody is looking for meaning. And they had no idea. This was Jesus using this opportunity. Because now it's kind of hard for us to compare, but that was the greatest attraction that was at this time. It is to see a Messiah, to see a prophet, to see a word from somebody. Because obviously they're going to Jerusalem, but they did not get from the previous times full satisfaction. So they were looking for something.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Bio, for that application. So if there's no other points, we'll go to section 2, caring for our needs. What did Jesus tenderly recognize that the people needed, and how did he use this opportunity to test the faith of his disciple? Brother Walter.
Yes, here we are having Jesus. We are told first that he was on the mountain with his disciples, and then he was looking and he saw a lot of people. I'm thinking, we are told that there were about 5,000 people, men only, without women and children. So our estimate might be double.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even today, even 5,000 people, it's a lot of people. I mean, you can feel the stadium, smaller stadium. So we had some gatherings where we had 5,000 people. I mean, it's huge. So, and then Christ was looking, and the next question he asked Philip, so how shall we feed these people?
Yeah.
Now, this is a methodical approach. He wants to stimulate thinking. So, humanly speaking, you don't have a solution. There is no way you can feed these people. So he wanted to face them with this impossibility first, and to teach them, look, there are other ways how people can be fed. You have to learn this lesson.
Yeah. Thank you. Brother Martin?
What we remark here is that, the Spirit of Prophecy is adding some comments here. He went there just to have a place of retreat, to rest a little bit, because he already served to them.
Yeah.
He went for a peaceful place and get a little rest. When he saw a multitude like this, even though he was going to rest, and I'm just thinking about myself, if you are already worn out, no energy, nothing, you cannot eventually work again. But he was moved by compassion, seeing them like we just mentioned. They are lost, they never heard somebody to understand. The priests, they never explained to them the hope of salvation. Now he went back. Despite the situation, the tiredness, and everything, he went back and talked to them and give. And the note says that they never had such a long day, heavenly day,
Yeah.
They tasted the heavenly atmosphere. And then this is happening. It was too late to go, and they cannot go. And they want to stay there, but they were hungry, and started the discussion. What can we do for these people, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Brother Martin. Brother David.
We need the spirit of discernment to see people who are destitute of the spiritual food and the physical food as well. Jesus was very sensitive to the souls, spiritually and physically. You could see that these people were there. It was a long day. And the disciples, they realized that they've been there.
Yeah.
They were with them. They knew very well to say that. But then they were not as sensitive as the master was. And this is a lesson also for us. We need to be very sensitive, and the spirit of discernment, we have to pray for it. My grandmother used to mention several times to say that when a visitor comes, you have to look on the lips, because sometimes the lips can show you to say that this person hasn't eaten any food. So we were wondering how can you tell? But the fact that they were there for a very long time and without food. And it goes again, he realized that they did not have actually the shepherd to take care of them. They could not have the real teaching coming from God through their leaders. So the distinction was both on physical and also on the spiritual part.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Last point. Yeah.
He who taught the people the way to secure peace and happiness was just as thoughtful of their temporal necessities as of their spiritual need.
Yeah. That's a great point. Thank you all. Thank you all for your comments. I think you covered everything I wanted to add. So going to question B, what was the reaction of Philip? So he's posed with this impossibility, as Brother Walter mentions.
Very practical. He said, look, we have 200 pennyworths. But what is this? And even though there's no way of us to, even if we wanted to, there's no way for us to go to buy because it's already dark, it's already evening is setting.
Yeah.
And who even has so much food that you can buy store?
Exactly.
You cannot go even, like even now, we're just thinking like, for 100 people, yeah, you may gather something within a couple hours. But for a 5,000, it doesn't matter. Even if you go buy the whole store, it's not enough.
Yeah.
And never mind having the money because you don't have cash for the buy down. So basically, it's just reflecting the reality. Whatever we have means nothing. We cannot even help a little group.
Exactly. That's the point I wanted to bring out.
We can say that we will answer in the same way because it's normal today. We never had this. But for them, having the words of God through Moses, they have the books, and they're supposed to know the God that they trust in. At least to mention, I cannot do it, but God can do it. But they didn't mention. They were focused on the, this secular, daily routine and everything. So sometimes we are the same, but we should learn the lesson. They supposed to, the disciples supposed to answer a little bit different. Yeah, we cannot, but God can. Because God, he brought the food in the wilderness, manna, and not only manna, they needed food, meat. The Lord gave them, and the Lord can do everything. But at this time, they were so worried about the problems, like we are many times, and they forgot the solutions. With God, everything is possible. But this was a good test of their faith, and it's for us as well.
Yeah, thank you. So Philip's impression here is, as was mentioned, it's impossible. And this is exactly what Jesus wanted him to think. That's what he wanted his disciples to realize, the impossibility of this task. So then it just makes the miracle that much more miraculous. Brother Dolibor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would like to connect this with our text from Desire of Ages. The sister writes. This is under the key text. She writes, often we hesitate, unwilling to give all that we have. That's what they had. A little bit. But we have something. Fearing to spend and to be spent for others. But Jesus has forbidden us, give ye them to eat. So including us also. His command is a promise, and behind it is the same power that fed the multiple beside the sea. Why he include them? Just to show that we all have something, and we read this in many places. When to save or to gather the people of this earth to be saved, you always use human powers. Humans as us, right? To first of all to help us to help others. So that's why he's trying to show to the disciples the same thing. You have something. It's not much, but you have something, and don't be afraid to give this what you have. Yeah. But you will be blessed also with this.
Exactly. Thank you. And we'll touch on that point more. We just have to move to the next one. But in summary for this question, I think to really bring it to us, it's saying here, just imagine we have, for example, a general conference, and I don't know, how many people did we have at the general conference? Does anybody know that attended, roughly? 10,000? Okay. Imagine all those people there, and something happens, we don't have any food. Imagine what frantic thing would be going on there. Even if we have potluck here, and if there wasn't food, people would go crazy. What's going to happen? Everybody's trying to figure out, doesn't make sense, and so this was a really bad situation. Are those situations always some things that we need to fear and we need to try to avoid at all costs? Well, in some ways you want to obviously plan for things, but if stuff like that happens, it's an opportunity for Jesus to do something and for God to do something special in our lives. If everything's always going as planned, then we become self-sufficient. We don't need God's help because we can plan in advance, we can avoid any problems no matter what, and we take everything for granted. But being in these positions like they were right now really allows their faith to be tested and tried. And that's what Jesus is doing here. He was meeting the physical needs of the people, he was feeling their needs, but he was also looking at the spiritual needs of his disciples. And now, section 3, whatever was available. What information did Andrew give to Jesus, and what did the Lord then direct the disciples to do? Sister Magda.
Jesus was inquired how much food could be brought among the company, and Andrew said that it's a boy that he have 5 loaves of barley bread and 2 fishes. And for Jesus was enough. He said, let the people sit down, and he saw in that little food, we can say, it was just for one boy, that food, not for 5,000 people. But he saw that the multitude can be fed from that small amount of food.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Brother Walter.
Yeah, Sister Magda mentioned, interestingly, John gives us details about what was there. 2 barley loaves. Barley is inferior to wheat, of course, so it was simple food, common food for the fishermen, and 2 small fishes. Okay. Now, Christ is using, important lesson here, Christ is, Dalibor hinted a little bit to that, Christ is using what you have. Starting from that point, what you have, he can multiply if you make proper use of it. It can be a simple thing, not much, he can multiply. Second thing, he does it in an organized way. He's putting them in companies of 50 and 100 and wants to be order. So in the church, in the community, must be order when we do things for God, right? Not haphazardly, anarchically, whatsoever. And then, Sister White says in the note, that people can see what Christ will do. When people are, if you have, a mass that is, now these foods, we don't know exactly, technically, how it was done, how he was multiplying. But apparently the disciples were ministering, and the food was multiplying. So everybody can see what was going on. And so everybody was impressed. They remember as long as they live what happened that night. So these are lessons that we can take from these experiences.
Yeah, thank you. Last point for this question.
Yeah, one more thing. It's already mentioned, but we have to understand that we have to put something in that Jesus could multiply. If we don't put nothing in, it's nothing to multiply.
Yeah.
And we have to understand that's so important that we cannot just always be with some excuses that we don't have it, we cannot do it, and pray to God to help us and guide us. And no, he cannot do it. We have to put something in that he could multiply it.
Thank you. Yeah, and Brother Walter just brought up one detail I want to make sure we all know where it's coming from. He said that he put them in groups of 50 and 100, and does it say that there in John 8? Anywhere in John? How do we know that Jesus did that? Is it just the spirit of prophecy that says it?
Yeah, the Bible elsewhere talks about this.
Exactly. That's what I didn't see it there. I'm wondering where. So I checked the other Gospels, and right there in Mark it says, so they sat down in ranks in hundreds and in 50s. So that's why it's nice to compare Gospels when we're studying the Bible. So question B, explain the steps Christ took in multiplying the food and what lessons we can learn from this.
When the baskets of fragments were collected, the people thought of their friends at home.
Brother Dave.
They wanted them to share in the bread.
Out of those 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, as it has been mentioned, we have first to understand the crowd that was there. If 5,000 are men, generally women, they attend such events more than men. That is, we should be more than having double, and then plus children. Now, this is where the whole context of this miracle is based. Because sometimes we try now to start analyzing, Christ gave a fish to them, and so on. It's not necessary. Because what we need to understand is that this food did not belong to Christ, neither to the disciples. It was not their food. It was belonging to a certain land, right? Then the multiplication of it was so miraculous that all of them, they ate, they were full, and then we had even some leftovers.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Brother Marian.
Well, the lesson is very clear here. Like you mentioned, it was a warder,
Mm-hmm.
and they were very well sitting down just to be well administrated.
Mm-hmm.
We have the steps here. The Lord Jesus Christ thanked God, and God gave. And then the Lord Jesus Christ multiplied and gave to the disciples. The disciples gave to the people. And I just read here, the people, they share one to another.
Mm.
So this is a lesson that whatever we receive and we depend on God, this is the unity. This is the lovely life that we should supposed to have. You know,
Mhm.
the more we depend on Christ, the more we share the benefits. And then it was another point here that says it was a very, very, Brother Walter mentioned this, no luxury time and not a big feast,
Yeah.
but very simple, food, which shows that the Lord will fulfill our needs, not our moths, not our, ambitious plans and everything, just
Exactly.
the needs, and we depend on Him.
Yeah, thank you. And I don't know about you, but from my experience, when somebody's actually in need of something, they appreciate it a lot more. When I'm working with my dad, sometimes we go to work and you're there working all day, hard physical labor, and then by the time lunch comes around, you don't care what there is to eat. You eat whatever it is, and it tastes so good. But if you're at home and you have the cupboards full of food, fridge full of food, all this delicious food, like you get a lot more picky and you want this and that, and you're not as satisfied. And Jesus was really meeting these people's needs. And same thing with us, exactly like Brother Marian mentioned. He doesn't promise that he's going to provide us every desire that we want, every car that we want, every house, every whatever we want. He'll provide our needs. Question C, of what lesson on true ministry are we here reminded?
Bring someone to our house and show how expensive our house is, how nice it's.
What does it mean to truly be a minister or to serve? Brother David.
We're looking forward to service to the people. And the ministry, it is service. We are not there to be saved, but we are there to save. And we see that the disciples, they were used too by the master to serve the people. And, us also, we have to do the same. We have to serve. We don't concentrate only on the spiritual part. Because if the spiritual part, we concentrate on the spiritual and then we leave the physical part lacking, it means that the physical is going to encroach the spiritual. These people, they could not listen to Christ with empty stomachs.
Yeah.
You can't concentrate when you need food. So this service has to be balanced. We look at the physical and the spiritual as well.
Yeah, thank you. Do you think that the disciples themselves were hungry too? Was it just the people there? Oh yeah, I think they must have been really hungry. And can you imagine that now? Their mouths just dripping and they see all this food, their mouths watering, and they have to just take it and distribute it. Must have taken a long time to give it to all those people, and maybe they're even wondering, will there be any left for us? But it doesn't say anywhere that one of them was too hungry and he fainted and he couldn't do it. And I think part of it is the power and strength that God gave them, but also when they were involved in serving other people, that was the nourishment and the food that they really needed. And they were empowered and able to go and to do God's work. And I think that's for all of us too. It says, he who waters will also be watered himself. If we put other people's needs before our own, then God will take care of ours. So if there's no other points, we'll go to section 4, the beauty of sharing. And then just to highlight the previous section, so we talked first about how Jesus met the people's physical needs, then disciples' spiritual needs, and this section we discussed how even in this event of feeding the 5,000, Jesus was meeting our spiritual needs. All these lessons, object lessons we just studied here, I think those were left there intentionally for us. And now the beauty of sharing this with others. What should we learn from the significant instruction Jesus gave after feeding the multitude? Brother Orville.
In the Gospels, it doesn't really fill you in on what happens. So I always used to think, well, 12 baskets, that's a lot. So Jesus bade the disciples gather up what's left so that the fragments that have not been eaten, so that nothing is wasted. And the spirit of prophecy fills this in, and what happens. It says when the baskets of fragments were collected, the people thought of their friends at home. Now, this is physical, but it's also spiritual. When we hear the words of God and we're fed spiritually, we want to take what we learned and feed it to the multitudes, our family and friends at home. So physically, they brought food home, but I'm sure they also relayed the miracle, what had happened.
Exactly. Thank you, Brother Orville. Brother David.
And it's obvious that when they took the physical food to people who were not there, they narrated what happened.
Yeah.
Right? And by so doing, the message that Christ preached to those who were around, it went around the whole region. So this is the goodness of the gospel. It's got the tendency, if we sacrifice ourselves, we give ourselves to the way the Lord has prepared, it will reach even to areas that we do not expect.
Thank you very much. Now, just want to ask the question, could Jesus have made the exact amount of food so that there's no leftovers?
Yes, I have the same thought. This is making even greater the miracle because he could. Or in other circumstances, they could eat from the less and they can be satisfied, you know.
Yeah.
So, and then we explain, oh yeah, everyone took a little and they were satisfied. This is to prove that this is a divine miracle.
Yeah.
And they have a lot. And they left. I mean, everyone was satisfied, full, and left. Later on, he can say, I am the bread of life. And I am the living water. So he's giving more and more and more. Never stop. That's right. Yeah, he could do it, like you said, a very strict amount. But no, this is the miracle and show the infinite love of God.
Yeah, thank you. I know, sure.
He didn't want to encourage the wasting of the food.
That's a good point, yeah.
He told them to gather everything and keep clean everywhere. And he could multiply the food to bring the friends home, to their friends home as well. But he doesn't want to encourage wasting food. And we have to be careful today. It's sin. It's sin to buy more than we need. It's sin to eat more than we need. And we have to think about the poor people and not wasting money for nothing, for garbage.
Yeah, those are very practical points.
Yes. It was not a coincidence. We have 12 baskets left, according to the numbers of the disciples, or even closer to that, right? And these are the same disciples who doubted the food if it was going to be enough. That's why we are remaining with 12. The Bible does not tell us how big these baskets were, but each of the disciples realized that they had one basket that was extra from what they doubted earlier on. So this is miraculous.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I know we'll have to move to the next one. I know Sister Magda has had more experience like preparing, planning to have food for so many people. I know I did a little bit when we had small camping trips, and you need to try and predict how much food everybody's going to eat. It's hard to know what people are going to eat. And usually if all the food is gone, it means there wasn't enough because people didn't get everything that they wanted. So yeah, it shows everybody was truly full, and the significance of the 12 baskets too. That's such a symbolic lesson for us as well. So moving to our next question. Even when it may appear inconvenient or impossible, what Christian quality are we bidden to cultivate? You guys can join our class too, if you want. Brother Rob?
Yes. Isaiah 58:6-8 says, to loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke.
Brother Walter? Yeah, Brother Tim.
Just sort of, it's a quite a famous verse, you know, this says, as psalmist David was writing the psalm, and what he stated here, he says, you know, that righteous should never stay hungry. Even though he had many difficult times in his life, and this is a kind of a comfort that is always given to us. It does not mean that there will be no difficult times, but it will mean that God is still taking care of us, and it is still in charge of our life, and just to trust in Him.
Yeah, thank you.
And I guess that hospitality is the quality that we are encouraged and never murmuring. When you are hospitable, from the heart, don't be sorry that you did something, because the Lord says this, and He will reward whatever we invest.
Yeah, thank you. When, Brother Dewey?
And also, it always comes at an inconvenience when you are supplying other people's need. There is no one who has got too much that it doesn't have anything to do with it. But then the concept that we are being introduced here is a fasting, right? So even if we have the desire to eat everything that we need to satisfy ourselves, we should be mindful to say that other people in other areas, in other homes, they are not privileged to have a meal that we are having, right? Therefore, we will eat little, we have a little fast so that we can afford to give to the others.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for me, when I'm going through the lessons, usually I read the verses first, and then try and understand them, get some context, and then I'll read the note. And I read these verses in Isaiah, and I was so encouraged, inspired. Yeah, I really want one day to be able to have some resources, some abilities to actually make a difference in people's lives. Maybe have a place where somebody can sleep, some homeless people, whatever it is, provide shelter and food to people in need. And then I read the note, and I was like, wow, it's talking exactly to that. We shouldn't be just looking forward to one day when we have money, when we have resources, we can make a difference. It says, though your use the means, the time, the ability you have now. Bring your barley loaves to Jesus. And it says, you may not be able to feed 5,000, but you may be able to feed one. And that one person is worth the life of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And as we bring what we have to Jesus, what is He going to do with it?
He's going to multiply.
Exactly. We've been talking about it the whole lesson. He'll multiply it. So our final section, our Creator and Provider. What wonderful characteristic of God must we never forget?
I'll just read Psalm 37. I've been young, and now I'm old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. He is very merciful and lendeth, and his seed is blessed. So God blesses us. In another reading, it says the children of the righteous will not beg bread. It's another psalm. So God provides for His people, His children. We are His children on condition of obedience.
Yeah, thank you. Any other points?
Yes, it tells us that God is our provider, He is our sustainer. In every circumstances, God is there. And once we do our part, we shall never, never be destitute of food. We will have always food. And then we are told in the note to say that this is a lesson for God's children in every age. What lesson is it? When the Lord gives us instruction to do a work, we need not to question the logic, even what the result will be. We just need to follow what the Lord has bidden us to do.
Yeah, thank you. So it's saying here that God is willing and able to supply all our needs. It says that in Philippians 4:19. But what do we need to do then? What does it say in Matthew 6:33? What comes before our needs are supplied?
Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added on.
Exactly. Thank you, Brother Rob. And I think this lesson just flows so nicely throughout, because we talked about first how Jesus recognizes and provides for our physical needs and for our spiritual needs. Then He gives us the opportunity to be a blessing to others and to supply other people's needs. But what happens when we often do this? Well, sometimes we can become discouraged. Sometimes it's not bringing so much success, or we feel we can't make a big difference. We limit God by what we think we're capable of doing. But what it's saying here in this final section is that He not only gives us the opportunity to bless others, but He gives us the ability to. And as long as we trust in Him and allow Him to work through us in serving others, then we can be a part of this work. So I will close with that. And thank you all for your participation.